when you're running sales promotions, you have to be, creative about the offer structure that you're putting together. Simply slapping on each and every month, like, oh, here's 25% off for the rest of, Halloween week. And then Thanksgiving comes around and it's, oh, here's 25% off for Black Friday. Oh, Christmas, here we go, 25% off. You have to be really, really creative and clever about how you're structuring and packaging offers together. And I think that that's something that indies get kind of tripped up about from time to time.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, indies? Welcome back to Creative Juice. It's been a week since I've been here, and actually I've been out a few episodes, so I am even more excited than normal to be here. So my name is Corinne. If you're new here, hello. And with me, as always, is Jack McCarthy. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm doing great. So excited to have you back. We missed you. It's exciting.
Did you have a ton of fun without me? Say no.
We had a great episode last week. I hope everybody really enjoyed it. It was a blast having Jesse and Ed on the podcast again, but we missed your voice. So I'm happy to have you back. And I know we have a ton of good stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because sometimes we get emails at Entrepreneur and people make fun of / are very complimentary of the way I giggle. And it's kind of awkward, but at the same time, it's kind of nice, I guess. But somebody actually commented in one of our Facebook groups on a post. They were asking for help with one of their ad sets. And so I took a look at what they were sharing and gave them some feedback. And they were like, I miss your chuckle on the podcast lately.
That's so endearing. Like, it's so nice.
It's so weird, but apparently it's funny because Jesse, he doesn't make fun of my laugh, but he does. He says I sound like Goofy sometimes when I laugh. Is that true? Have you ever thought that?
Goofy has never come to my mind, but now I'm going to be paying really close attention.
Now I'm deadpan. I'm never going to laugh again. I think that's one of the things, I think like the meanest things you can do to a person is make fun of how they sneeze or make fun of how they laugh. The first one, because you really can't help it. And the second one, because you take this moment of joy and like make people feel weird about it if they're at all self-conscious.
I always feel really bad for people who snort when they laugh because I know they can't help it. But those are like the prime targets,
Right. Well, now that we've got the important stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and dig into what we're talking about today, which is how musicians can sell more merch in 2020 and beyond. Right? I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about how to develop products. And I know that musicians, we know the CDs, we know the t-shirts, and we've got a lot of standard products. And earlier in this year, we've definitely talked about how to ideate better merch that kind of fits your brand and has some, creativity to it to make it a little bit more exclusive or special. And I know that the guys both brought some really cool stuff to the table as far as that's concerned last week. But it's okay. So you made creative stuff. So now how do you sell more of it? How do you get people buying multiple times? How do you increase the value of each customer that comes through your store? If all they buy is a t-shirt, that's great. You sold a t-shirt. But then what do you do after that? How do you get more margins? How do you squeeze more revenue out of the sales you're making? And I'm excited to talk about this. Obviously, I'm a merch nerd. This is always stuff I'm looking at. So, and Jack obviously has a lot of experience with, doing this at the IndieX level. So I'm pretty stoked to talk about it.
Yeah, so am I. I think one of the big questions that comes up a lot of times is like, all right, we talk about all these ways and strategies of building a fan base and getting people interested, but when it comes down to it, like, how do I sell more? How do I get people buying my music and buying what I've got going on? How do I package offers together? How do I make compelling offers? and what's the right way to do that doesn't come off as weird or, ill-timed? What's the strategy and what do we see success with? What do we see kind of happening at the ground level? So I'm really excited to share some of the cool things that we see happening. And also, now's such a good time to talk about selling as we go into Q4 here, which is wild. Q4 of 2020.
I know. I can't believe it's September. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know. Me too. It's insane. But now's a perfect time to talk about, how you can tap into all of the audience building that you're doing, whether that be audiences that you're building, online that you can retarget, or your list that you're building up, or that customer list that's been sitting stale that you haven't been doing anything with. Like, Q4 is a great time to kind of take a look back and see where your missed opportunities might be.
Totally. And, that's Q4, quarter four is so powerful because there are a few things, and depending on your brand, there might be like 3 big chunks for you because you've got the Halloween season, which is, very festive. I have seen musicians like sell masks, especially there are some artists that wear masks in their music videos and I'm not talking about face masks like COVID face masks. I'm talking about, burlesque kind of masks or masquerade type masks, So those kinds of things can be really fun and sourced relatively cheaply through, makers on Etsy and stuff like that. So you've got like the Halloween season, the costume, the festivity of the Halloween portion of quarter four. And then you also have obviously Black Friday. People expect really great deals for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So now is a great time to be setting all that up because you definitely don't want to wait until the week before and be like, well, I only have these 3 things in stock, so I'm going to sell them for cheap. That's something that we actually have been talking about at Indepreneur because a lot of our people, we have our standalone trainings that many people have purchased. And we have our Indie Pro members and our membership for Indie Pro. And Indie Pro has, a monthly plan and an annual plan. And sometimes we offer a quarterly plan. And so this year we were talking about Black Friday and we were like, how can we, we don't want people to just stick around and know that we're going to take these core products and make them cheap. Right? Yeah. And the same thing is true for your fans, right? You should be figuring out how to bundle them, how to make them exciting, special just for these kinds of times so that they don't necessarily think like, well, if I hang around, I'll just get something when they have their next sale, right? It'll be the same offer. So it's definitely a time to be creative. And then obviously you've got the holidays. So whichever holiday you may celebrate in December, or if you don't celebrate any, you can obviously go with a certain holiday theme, whether that's, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, any of the above or more. But you can also just realize that even if you don't celebrate a holiday or don't have holiday themed gifts, there are just a lot of people shopping. Right? Yeah. Looking for gifts.
Everybody else is celebrating.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people out there who are, looking for gifts or looking for, they've got gift cards for their holiday present. And so they're finding ways to spend it, So it's definitely a great time to be planning. So hopefully this episode can provide some inspiration for you to figure out how to really capitalize on that because it is the biggest spending time of the year. Something that we've also been kind of talking about within Indepreneur is just looking at regular consumer behavior throughout this pandemic has actually resulted in a lot of online sales. Amazon can't even keep up with their sales. There's a lot of different companies that have seen their e-commerce double or triple during this period of time. So musicians shouldn't be different from that, right? We're e-com specialists really when we can't tour. So we should be looking at the same kinds of things. So if you haven't started planning your sales for the end of this year, I definitely recommend doing it, even if you never have before, because I have a feeling that this holiday season and Black Friday is going to be record busting across the world. So, all right, so let's dig in, right? What strategy do you want to touch first on, Jack? Because I know we talked about a few, but I want to know which one you want to kick it off with.
I'd like to kick us off with something that will kind of be evergreen, so to speak, as far as a concept goes. And that is the idea of sales promotions. And it's something that I'm constantly harping about. I've probably gone on about it on the podcast.
Really? I've never noticed that before, Jack.
Yeah, here we are, just bearing my soul. But the reason I want to start here is because I'm hoping that, while 2020 has proven to us that we can't see the future, what I'm hoping is that in this episode, we can unpack some concepts that people can carry with them beyond just the rest of this year and into the rest of this decade. And one tried and true method for selling more things, whatever it is that you sell, whether it's music or, supplements for your muscles. Sales promotions are a tried and true method when you have a customer base. So I'd love to start there, that these could be things that you could carry on into, the rest of this year, the rest of next year.
Into the beyond.
Into the beyond, yeah. Into the rest of this decade, the 2020s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm for that. It's funny too, because this splinters down into so many different things, because it can be a sales promo for a holiday, but it can also, there are so many opportunities for you to make sales, even just to individuals through your automation based on their behavior. This just breaks into so many tiny little pieces. So what caveat would you kick off with, Jack?
So I would kick off with the caveat that, for one, if you're not already running sales promotions, you should be. There is caveat number one that I'm just reiterating here is if you're not regularly making sales offers to your subscribers list to either move people that haven't purchased from you once into a purchasing decision, running a sales promotion is a great way to do it. If you're looking to nurture customers and ascend them with your customer list, running a sales promotion is a great way to do that. The caveat to make, though, is that when you're running sales promotions, you have to be, creative about the offer structure that you're putting together. Simply slapping on each and every month, like, oh, here's 25% off for the rest of, Halloween week. And then Thanksgiving comes around and it's, oh, here's 25% off for Black Friday. Oh, Christmas, here we go, 25% off. You have to be really, really creative and clever about how you're structuring and packaging offers together. And I think that that's something that indies get kind of tripped up about from time to time. Especially if you're working with like a limited amount of products, maybe you've only got a few products in your store and you're not really sure how to package them together. So you might just slash down and do a store-wide discount, which is, again, another caveat. It's a great way to run a sales promotion. Store-wide discounts work really, really well. They just don't work really, really well over and over and over again, month after month.
For me, I will only run a store-wide sale once a year. And that might be a little bit fewer than some, or less frequent than some. Yeah. But for me, I just don't have enough products where I know that I am, there are some items I have that are not as high margin, so I don't want to make it a site-wide sale, because depending on how many they get, it could put me in the red on that product, right? Yeah. And there are also, I think, so for me, like a site-wide promotion, I probably do once a year, and I don't do it when everyone else is shopping, and I don't do it for like Cyber Monday or anything like that. Usually I either do it on my birthday or I'll do it for just some random day. Yeah. And I like doing that because it kind of moves people out of the paydays where they're saving their cash to buy gifts or to travel or whatever. It doesn't mean that people don't buy at those times, but it's a lot less competition because I'm not trying to compete with this big discount, right?
Yeah.
Instead, when I am competing with other, sales promotions that I know are just going to be going on all over the world, that's when I know that I need to diversify the products and I need to make cool bundles out of specific products. And sometimes products that are just for this, this possible promotion, and sometimes with things that I already have in stock. So that decision has to be made. But I think, one of the biggest struggles in being too consistent with your offer is also being too consistent with your products, right? And that's kind of two different lanes. So, that's where we always start talking about diversifying products. And that's where a lot of indies end up in on demand, which, we're not necessarily encouraging. But if it's allowing you to make a different kind of offer, to get people to widen their number of orders with you or increase their lifetime value with you, sometimes that can be worth it. So Jack, when you're talking about sales promotions, are you just saying on a very broad scope, just like having things go on sale, like frequently throughout the year, but separate from each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can encompass a lot of different ideas, but as a general jumping off point, I love what you mentioned about like, you run store wide on your birthday or like a random day as,
right.
As opposed to like a Black Friday, Cyber Monday store wide discount. I think when I'm talking about sales promos, thinking beyond just the holidays or, the usual, like the President's Day weekend sale or something like that. Artists have an opportunity to get really creative about when they structure these regular sales. So it could happen around, if you're in a band, like the birthday of the band, or here's an example from the agency at IndieX. One of our artists last spring ran an anniversary sale on it was the anniversary of their first record, like the 5-year anniversary or something like that of their first full length.
Yeah, I've done that too. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool sales promo. And what was different about it was rather than package together an offer from their existing products, they launched a limited time product, a limited time offer on a variant anniversary edition of their record, which was really just an inversion of the colors with like a new shirt and packaged together nicely with like a celebratory kind of note from the band. And it sold massively. Their fans ate it right up because they wanted to be a part of something. So sales promos, regular sales promos could be about packaging together what you have existing product wise in your store, or it could be about creating new offers on new products.
Right. Yeah. I think that sounds amazing and I would buy it from an artist that I loved.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you have fans of your music, anytime that you do something intentional, right, purposeful, where it definitely feels like you didn't just throw it together, then they're going to be even more invested in it than a site-wide sale, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, this is a special thing. So something else that I kind of try to plan around when I'm doing sales promotions, especially if there are if I'm making follow-up offers to certain things, is to space out, and I do this with my product releases too, is to space out the timing of it, right? And I try not to land any two offers within the same payday period, right? Which for me used to be once a month because the military pays once a month. So I used to think of it that way. But now now that I'm a real person and I'm not in the military anymore, I realize that people get paid every 2 weeks. So it's not necessarily as easy to determine, right? But for example, if I'm running a promo where it's like a limited time offer, I will run it for 10 days starting on a Thursday. And so I will run it from Thursday through the next Sunday. And what that allows me to do is basically make sure that whenever they get paid in those 2 weeks, and I always overlap it with the first as well, because I do have military fans and they get paid on the first. Some of them get paid twice a month, but for sure they get paid on the 1st. So I try to, really spread that out so that whenever people get paid, I know that I'm not like asking them to do something within 4 days because they may not get paid, right?
Right, yeah.
So obviously for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that's not necessarily something that's logical, but for me that has really helped. And I think that it allows people to kind of take their time and see, if they can afford it. And I just try to be sensitive to that because not all fans have $1 million. So that's one way that you can kind of space out your sales promo in a way that, it's not as scarce and urgent, but it does ensure that more people are going to be able to take their most recent funds and, purchase from you.
Yeah, I think that that's really useful, especially when like the products that we as musicians and artists are selling they're not necessarily, utility, like
exactly. It's
the
fun
same
money stuff.
Yeah, it's not the same as buying, your Dyson vacuum cleaner on Black Friday because Target's running a sale.
I'm totally doing that. Yeah, I agree. So, I think that's where you want to start getting creative with how you space out your marketing, right? For, again, I look at whether I'm having to compete with anything else major going on. And that's when I don't do just % off type sales. I do % off type sales when there's not a lot of other things going on. I don't do it around President's Day, around the 4th of July, around any of these major holidays. I don't do site-wide discounts then. That's if I am going to do something over those times, that's when I come up with packages, bundles, cool, unique things that may or may not have to do with that holiday. So that it's, themed, right? And that's one way that you can kind of make sure that you are doing something timely that is of the holiday in conversation, but also is not having to compete with just deep discounts all across the internet.
Yeah, for sure. I think in addition to like planning the timing of your sales promos, something else to consider is like the targeting of your sales promos. And I don't mean targeting in terms of your Facebook ads. I mean specifically knowing who in your fan base a sales promo is for, because you might run a sales promo specifically for a subset of your customers as opposed to like blasting out, an offer to your whole list. It might be, specifically like, okay, let's say I'm running a Labor Day sales promo, but I really only want it to be for fans that have bought from me twice or something like that.
Exactly.
Really narrowing in on like who the offer is right for, or as you're creating the offer, who is this? Who do I want to make this to? Who is this special for?
Right.
I think that can be really important because not every sales promo needs to be for everyone.
Right. That's actually something I utilized today. I actually sent out an email. I know, right? Real
Timely.
time from the battlegrounds. But today I launched I have a bunch of shirts that I made. I did a limited run of 100 of them, and there were 19 left that just didn't want to move. Like everyone who purchased it, of their own volition purchased it, and they just weren't moving anymore. And the amount that I made on the first 81 of those was, totally covering my cost of goods. I had a great margin on them. I think they cost me about $6 to make, and I was selling them for $25. So my cost of goods was completely offset by that point. And I was like, you know what? I just don't want to have these sitting on the shelf anymore. And the art was actually from the second single from my orchestral disc. So that would have come out in, I want to say May. So they've been sitting there, and I'm going to be moving on to other designs. I didn't feel the need to just hold on to these and keep them in the store and have it go stale. So I basically filtered out my mailing list by people who have ordered from me, whose lifetime value was at least $25 and had not purchased from me in the last 2 weeks. And then I also filter, I allow my subscribers to opt into certain emails or not. So then I also excluded people who didn't want deals and discounts because that is a category that I let them opt in and out of.
Nice.
So I sent them to a pay what you want funnel, which we're going to get more into pay what you want. But I sent them to a pay what you want funnel for that shirt where they could pay literally $0 because at this point, again, I'm just trying to move the product. I don't want it on the shelf. And at this point, cost of goods has been covered. So I'm fine. So I set it to pay what you want with $5 shipping. I sent it to my US people only. And then I had an upsell of a shirt that I don't have on sale right now and gave them 25% off that price. So I sent that out at 11 a.m. today. And by 2 a.m., I had sold out of the top 3 sizes, and I'm hoping to sell out the rest, although I'm learning more and more that a lot of my fans are big and tall, so I'll probably order more of the larger shirts next time. Those smalls and mediums, man, I just can't get them to move.
They're hard to move.
Yeah, but I sold all of them except for the smalls and mediums. I sold only a couple of those, so I only have 5. I'll only have 5 shirts in stock. And that was, 4 hours ago. So it was really, and I also excluded people who'd already bought that shirt, obviously. And it went really well. And there were a couple people who paid $0, but most of them threw me 10, 15. One guy even bought it for $25, which is more than I even have it on my store right now. So, and then there was about a 50% take rate on the second shirt, which helped me move even more of those. So I think there's a situation where you have to know if people already have a certain LTV from you and you're tracking the products they purchase from you. First off, the best practices that I was trying to include in this offer was one, offering something to someone who has not already bought it, right? Because imagine how ticked the people who paid full price for would be if they knew that I was selling it for pay what you want, which could be $0, right?
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling. So definitely excluded those people. I wanted to make sure that I didn't get too many people who are going to pay $0 for it. So using that LTV segment, making sure that they'd given me at least $25 sometime in the ecosystem of when they'd come into my world. So that kind of helped me mitigate the chance that more people were going to pay $0 than not. And then also knowing that they would probably buy the upsell, the second t-shirt. So filtering those was, and the fact that this shirt is a timely thing and it's like, all right, I'm going to get these. And I told them that. I didn't even lie or anything. I just was like, all right, I only have these left and it's time to move on. Do you want one? And it was really surprising. And I actually got a lot of emails back from from people who were like, oh, I can't believe the XL is already sold out. And I was like, sorry, I'll order more next time, But it was a great way for me to, first off, blow through that revenue so I can quit sitting on my shelf, open room for my next design, and give these people a great deal. And in the end, I still averaged, or I have so far, I've averaged income on the shirts of $12. So it still was profitable, but it still was a 50% margin, even with that crazy sale on average across the orders for today. So I think something like that is where you start really looking at your mailing list provider or tracking your customer information, because that offer made sense to very specific people, and being able to filter to those people and make the right offer to them, I think was something that really helped this be a success.
Yeah, definitely. This is an interesting kind of case study on what it looks like to look at your products, what's in your store, what you've got in stock, and planning out an offer based on what you have, beyond just
right.
like a discount on something. It's how do I get creative, and what kind of upsells do I pair with that? And is there an order bump, and who does it go to, and what's the messaging behind it? That's really how you create a cool offer, whether it's around a sales promo that you're, planning for a time period, or whether it's just a push because you need to move inventory. That's a really cool case of how it's done, of how you look at what's in front of you, and you say, I don't necessarily have to make a new product. I just have to offer it in a new way.
Exactly. Yeah. I practice what I preach, folks. But yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the pay what you want strategy.
Because I know I already touched on it.
Perfect segue.
OMG, I love Pay What You Want. I've been using Pay What You Want mostly in Thrivecart, although I have been able to figure out a tech stack that'll do it in Shopify as well, which I've not really, to be honest, I've not really dug that deep into it. I know I have it installed. I know that it works, but I haven't played a lot with like combining that with upsells and all of that in Shopify, because we all know that Shopify isn't super friendly with that stuff. But Pay What You Want has been remarkable for my free plus shipping and handling funnel, especially because I think one of the reasons why, if I'm just to be honest, one of the reasons why it works well for me is because of this Army backstory. I think that that's something that, if any artist is trying to do, something with Pay What You Want, where you're trying to get people to pay more than $0, right? It's good to have a hook, And so for me, I'm lucky because that hook is super built in. I didn't even have to get creative about it. That's the hook because so many of my fans are military supporters and they're definitely into it. So, but that has resulted in some really cool stuff for me. So, I've had people pay as much as $50, folks, for a CD. And I'm wild. Like, you got to be kidding.
That's wild.
It's so crazy. And that's not the norm. Most people throw me $10, which is great. I mean, that's what I'm selling it for in my store, but I've had people pay 20, 25, 35 in the 40s. And it's not unusual. Like it's not, 45 and 50, I'm kind of like, holy man. But for the lower tiers, if someone pays $20, it doesn't even surprise me anymore, which is kind of, spoiled. But that Pay What You Want feature really allows you. I think there's so many great things about it because first off, it can generate some goodwill, right? You're like, look, and I don't use this in my copy because I don't like capitalizing on pandemic times. I think there are probably ways you can, there are ways that you can do it in a way that is tasteful, but for me, it just doesn't line up with my crowd. Especially,
you mean you don't like talking about these unprecedented times and how your free CD is going to help them cope with these unprecedented times?
Super unprecedented, man. Yeah, for real. Especially, it's hard to sell something as super timely. This album's actually from 2013, right? So it's not like it's super duper timely in and of itself as a product. So it just didn't seem right to use it in the copy. But also I have a lot of, more conservative fans and, it's just kind of it gets political even if you don't mean it to be. So I just stay away from it. But I have seen some people do some relatively tasteful things with it. And in the follow-up emails, I do mention that I'm like, look, I know that not everybody is totally flush right now. There are people who aren't employed and, maybe some rock music will just make your day better. So, there have been people that have really kind of loved that, and it allows you to come off gracious, right? If you can only pay me the $5 for shipping, pay me the $5 for shipping. And like, I'm happy about that. I'm happy you're here, even if you pay me $0 for that album. And so it allows you to feel really gracious. And then when they go through and they pay you more than $0, they feel really generous. And so it's a win-win because everybody just feels all warm and fuzzy about it.
There's reciprocity is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I've been just super obsessed with this Pay What You Want strategy. It's worked for me with albums. It's worked for me with vinyl pre-orders actually, because my vinyl isn't even in yet. I'd never ordered vinyl. And pre-orders have worked with that as well. And, with t-shirts. So as of today. So I think Pay What You Want just psychologically is a really strong strategy because it does allow you, if nothing else, it allows you to, get a new contact, get a new customer If they are somebody who's been just kind of drifting around your fan finders and checking out your stuff, but never purchased, and you make them this offer, you still got their email and contact information. And if you think about it, we run fan finders. Typically, we run video view campaigns, and then we send them into some kind of opt-in, right? Permission, getting their email or contact information. Maybe it's a text list. And then we try to make them a sales offer. So if you can take someone directly from looking at your video or looking at your content to getting a purchase for $5, right? That's already like skipped an ad that you may have had to run for opt-ins first. Now, I'm not saying that it's a substitute for that. It definitely isn't, because you will limit your audience by the number of people willing to do that. But for example, if you sell an album for $0 and you charge them $5 for shipping, it's probably, if you're within the US anyway, it's going to cost you, just under $3 to ship that. If you're buying your packaging, you're probably, if you're doing bubble mailers, you can get those for, Full Stack Merch gets them for 12 cents, but we buy thousands of them at a time. But you still could get them down into the 40-cent range, even if you're buying it, kind of short run. There's still margin in there, right?
Yeah.
So if they pay you anything, it's profit, even minus the cost of the album to print, So I've really dug Pay What You Want. And I've been using it on a lot of stuff lately because I've heard some indies talk about it. And every time indies talk about a strategy that they are thinking about trying or wish that someone would be testing, I go test it. So that's how it's gone so far for me. And I think anytime that you can make an offer that, allows you to express how gracious you are, and then allows the fan to express how generous they are, how supportive they are of you, that's, everybody wins in that case.
Yeah, for sure. It's so interesting how, and you and I were talking about this over the weekend, I think, how the Pay What You Want kind of model comes up in a variety of forms, every few years or so in mainstream music talk, with like bands like Radiohead or Nine Inch Nails. Like these things always start to pop up. Like you hear about them. I remember hearing about, I think it was Radiohead that did a Pay What You Want kind of offer back in like 2012 or something.
Right.
And it's just funny how these things kind of like crop up from time to time. People talk about them. People forget about them. They come back again. Indies talk about it. It still works.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see it in action and functioning. So it's an awesome example of how you combined it with free plus shipping and handling too, to really like maximize that kind of offer.
Right. Yeah. And then obviously, we're going to be diving into a lot of this next week. I'm just going to do a little teaser on that, but it's really important to have upsells or bundling with that kind of offer. So whether it's a Pay What You Want or whether it's a free plus shipping and handling, you have to have things paired with it to really make it profitable in the long run, because you're not going to generate enough people who just buy the CD to actually make it profitable once you're looking at your ad spend. So maybe that's what we talk about next, Jack, is like bundling, right? Like what are smart ways to bundle? How are ways that we can increase that order volume? What is some great, do you have any insights as to how to ideate the things to go along with those offers?
Yeah, for sure. So, bundling and upselling and having order bumps, I think is just something important to have in your stack regardless.
Yeah.
Whether you're running sales promos and there's a secondary offer that comes after someone purchases, or an order bump in place if you're running like a funnel type of architecture, or, if you're running a Pay What You Want funnel or a free plus shipping and handling funnel, or even, just a standard tripwire core offer type of funnel,
right.
Having those things, those revenue maximizers in place is a must have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just something that you shouldn't miss out on. But when it comes to getting creative, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different tech stack opportunities to consider as well. Something I always point back to, and I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, is in the 502's album launch back in 2017, how their whole launch was themed around the party, right?
Right.
And they did and they had, at the end of their album launch, they were offering a physical version of the CD that was special edition and signed. But along with that, the order bump was a shot glass. And it was, limited edition, specifically made for this offer that is only being made to this subset of their fans that had gone through a cool experience with them of their album launch. And that was like, to me, it always comes back to me as like a great example of something that worked really well as an order bump, because it was low cost to them, meaning the band. It was something that they could package in and add to the sales page as an order bump that wasn't, crazy expensive. It was, I think, like somewhere between $7 and $10 for a fan to pick it up and add it onto their order, bundle it in. And it was perfectly themed in with the whole context of what they were doing and what fans had been exposed to up to that point. Right. So that one always stands out to me. From one side of things. But another example is just, and this is something that we've been seeing a lot of at IndieX, is even if you're running like a Shopify store and you've got customers hanging out in there and shopping around, let's say, this is a specific example of something that I was actually working on today. One of our IndieX clients is in the process of launching a series of hoodies kind of around we're getting into September. It's going to start to be chilly soon. So he's got a whole set of 4 hoodies that are coming out, new designs, and he's launching them today on a Tuesday. And with that, we used a bundling app in Shopify so that when fans hit the product page of any one of those hoodies, there's a number of different offers that they potentially can see based on what we've got set up in the back end, right there on that sales page. And it basically allows them to take up and add to cart a second product. So for some of the hoodies that have a complimentary shirt with a similar design, they can scoop that up right there and get 25% off. So in that way, the 2 products complement one another.
Right. Are you using Bundles by Gazebo?
No, I'm using, I believe it's called Bundler by Golden Dev.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one too. I just figured we should mention the tech pieces in case anybody's like, what app was that?
Yeah. I believe this one is called the Bundler app by Golden Developers.
Yeah.
I haven't used the Gazebo app, but I have seen it in the store.
Yeah. The Gazebo app's good. It's cheaper for sure. But it does the same thing. So essentially, and different apps will kind of display in different ways, but Shopify apps that are great at this will, underneath the add to cart button, directly under it, there'll be images of, the thing that you are selling. And then it'll say plus, and then show an image of the thing you're bundling with it, or multiple things that you're bundling with it. And you've probably seen things like this. For example, if you're shopping on Amazon and you're looking at a product, it's not by the add to cart button, but if you scroll just below the actual item, it'll be like, customers bought these 3 things together, And it's funny because Amazon will kind of put a price there, in red, as if you're going to get a discount for bundling them, but you don't. But in your store, you can actually get, have them get a certain percentage off of the combination. And then you can put save, $30 off if you buy these together, or save 10% if you're buying these together, whatever. You can change the verbiage in most of these apps. And so stuff like that, it means they don't have to click through. They don't have to go to another page, and you don't have to explain to them, okay, add this and then use this discount code, right? It's something that just pops up right there. And if you're not using Shopify, there are other tools that do this, though. Squarespace e-com isn't great at it. Wix stores aren't great at it. So there are some limitations in certain e-com platforms, but generally there are add-ons to a lot of different e-commerce platforms that allow you to do this. And it's kind of a no-brainer, you know? And if somebody already has that item, like, no worries, right? You're just offering them something in addition to it. I don't think you have to think about it in the same way that you would, for example, an email directly to someone who has already purchased a product, right? This is just people browsing around your store. So, but bundles are definitely just, you know, great.
Yeah, for sure. And it's pretty crazy. For some of our artists at IndieX, we're seeing bundler apps like that. We're seeing some of the revenue coming in from those types of, you know, we'll call them bundle order bumps or upsells or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. We're seeing some of that equate to up to 10% of their monthly revenue, which is pretty wild, right? Especially especially when we're talking about like Shopify store infrastructure. It's not even like a funnel architecture, really.
Right.
The fact that it's getting that kind of take rate on a variety of these different bundle upsells is really, really cool. So, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Like if you're an indie and you're hesitant and you feel like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, is that too much offer exposure? What if they already have it? Like, this isn't an email. It's not personalized.
Right.
And
people don't expect it to be personalized either.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because like realistically, consumers are very used to at this point seeing that kinds of things on places like Amazon, like you said, or even like eBay, you know,
right.
You see it all over the place. So having that in place is really, really helpful. That's just one example of the kind of bundling that you can do. Another example that comes to mind, which I think is really cool, are like free gift add-ons. And this is something that we've used with some of our IndieX folks as well. And it's been particularly useful around like if you've got masks in your store, like branded masks right now, not in an exploitative way by any means, but you know, we have some artists who are, you know, very conscious of what's going on in the world, and they want to make sure that their fans are taking care of themselves in that way, for personal reasons or for not. And having a low cost, high margin sort of product like a mask can work really well as a free gift. And the way that we've structured it, initially, you know, they can work really well as just like buy this thing and get this free product. But what also really works well from a revenue lift standpoint is, you know, any orders over a certain amount get this bundled in for free. Right. So, you know, it might be any orders over $50 and you get a free mask or a free hat or something like that. That can work like magic, honestly. I've seen it work really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, in the same vein, even free shipping can do that, right?
Yeah.
For a long time, I had a banner in my store that was like, you know, free shipping over $50 or whatever. And the number of people, and I have Hotjar installed on my site and on my store so that I can kind of see how people behave. It does visitor recording. So anytime anyone's navigating around, I mean, it's definitely a lot to scrub through, but I can filter it down to just interactions in my store. And something that I would see is like people would go to their cart and see the $45, and I would actually see the mouse, because it does show mouse tracking. I would see the mouse like read the free shipping banner that was at the top, which is it's so funny that people do that. Actually, a lot of text on my site, I'll see them using the mouse to kind of track what they're reading. But I would see them go up there, and then I'd see them click out of the cart and go find something, and they'd be looking for something that was like $5 that they would be able to do that. So, I mean, that touches on a few things, right? People are looking for free shipping, but that's why it's also very valuable to have both high level, you know, high expense, so to speak, goods, expensive goods, and cheap goods, right? Things that people could just like add on. And that way, if you do have any kind of promotion running there, you know, people can bump their order by $5, or maybe that $5 item is the thing you offer for free, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, we're kind of talking about product ideation as well as offers, but they go together, right? So I definitely think that throwing in something free or even going for free shipping can really kind of increase your order volume when you've got that threshold that causes it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny you mentioned like following people who read with their mouse, because I'm totally one of those people.
Yeah.
I'll highlight things with my mouse as I'm on like a sales page or an opt-in page or whatever. I'll highlight text as if it's helping me read it better. I don't know why I do it, but now I feel really self-conscious.
Yeah. Well, see, now we both have something that we're self-examining in this episode.
Yeah,
It's
here
great.
we go. Every time I touch a computer now.
Right, exactly. You'll be thinking about it, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's definitely a cool strategy. One other thing I really wanted to touch on as we're getting ready to wrap up here is an auction. And
Ooh, yes.
I actually installed, dude, I've never done an auction before. It's funny because when I did get this auction, I started putting it together. Jesse, who, he works in the Nashville office when he has to record video. We still keep distance, of course, but I was telling him about it. And he was like, I don't know. I just don't want to make it like my fans have to like compete for something. And I was like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Like I wasn't for a while, and at first it felt really weird. And then I was like, you know what? Because I was going through old boxes and I found some of the CDs that the Army had produced. And I just kept a few copies of them. Like these are things that literally cannot ever be printed again. I didn't pay to print these. The Army printed them. It had official Army branding on it. And so I had a CD with the cover was -10, which was the name of the Army band that I was in. And, it was all three of us on the cover. And I had wristbands that said like Go Army and -10 on them, and some stickers that were the official stickers that we gave out. So I took 3 of those stickers and 3 of those wristbands and that CD. And I was like, all right, only 4 of these remain, like ever. And I'm going to do 1 right now. So I put it up for auction. I did leave the auction running this one I only did for 4 days, even though I typically try to keep promos at a week and a half. This one I was like, I just don't want to sit around and watch that thing go up.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to close it. So it ran for the weekend, closed on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. And I ended up getting $116.
That's wild.
It was crazy. I mean, this is literally something that cost me no money, and it was just insane. And the app that I used, and there weren't very many in the Shopify store. I did run it in Shopify. There weren't very many options, but the app that I used actually allowed people to proxy bid, which means that they could set their maximum that they would pay, and it would just auto bid for them if someone outbid their current bid. And
eBay style, yeah.
Yeah, eBay style. And it was funny to see. Like, I was like, I was very transparent with them. I was like, look, all the songs that are on this album are encompassed in my CDs that are currently out. So you're not getting any music that's different because I actually allowed the Army to use my music. So they knew that. They didn't care. They just wanted that exclusive official Army branded art, which I just thought was crazy. And the way that they went at it was, resulting in 116 days is crazy, or $116. Now, the thing is, I didn't love how this app functioned in my Shopify store. And I think I might actually run it on eBay or something like that next time, because it wouldn't show the people. Like, the only way that you could let it show the people bidding was by their email address. And I was like, ooh, I don't want that. So I didn't, I'll probably go with something like eBay next time, but I had so many people reply with excitement about that, that they were like, when are you going to do another auction? So I actually decided that it's like a policy now that I'm going to do one auction every quarter, and I'm going to make, one of a kind items that, I won't put a reserve on them. People can pay, $1, and if no one competes against them, it'll sell for $1. But it really is kind of fun when you can ideate products that you're literally only going to make one of, because you don't have to worry about ordering them and how much it's going to cost and all this other stuff, right? To order a bunch of them and how many can I sell? Like, just find something that is unique and people will go for it. And yeah, I was blown away, and now I'm 100% for auctions. Like, I think it's super fun.
I think that's so exciting. Like, the big takeaway there is, like, if you have product that is, really limited edition and never coming back,
right?
That's an awesome, offer for an auction. Or if you can create something that is so unique, we're artists in a number of different ways. So thinking outside the box about what you can offer, for something like this, it's just like the sky's the limit, really.
Right. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, so if I have, I'm sorry, but I'm currently doing a renovation on my house, and my house is over 100 years old. So there's a lot of really old stuff in the walls. And where we are, where I'm going to be building this addition, they had to put in a subfloor, and it meant that they had to cut through the wall of the original house. And what they found in there was kind of this cross wood that keeps the house from falling over from a tornado. Because I do live in Middle Tennessee, so tornadoes are a thing here. And so this was actually a way that in olden days, they would actually help reinforce the home. Really, it was actually surprising it was on my house, because it usually was only very fancy homes that had this, but mine somehow had it. And so these cross slabs were old grown cedar. And it's the kind of wood that they only use for finishes now. They only use for really high-end finishes, because we don't have old grown wood in things anymore, because we're trying to keep our old trees, not cut them down. So instead, in America, we have these rapid growing trees, and we just cut those down instead of going in and cutting down 100-year-old trees. So they had to cut these off the bottom of my house. It's not like they were trees anymore, so I didn't feel bad about it. But I have a whole bucket of this amazing tight grained cedar. And I've got the Glowforge, this laser etcher thing. So I was like, I am going to make some cool stuff out of this wood.
Oh, man.
Each piece is probably 12 to 16 inches long, and then, about 8 inches wide, because that was a standard piece of lumber in those days. So I can carve all kinds of cool stuff into it. So it just kind of goes to show, I'm not just going to be like, hey, look, here's this cool piece of wood that has a thing in it. I have a whole story I can talk about. Look, this is taken from my actual home, and it's 100 years old, and there's all blah, 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 right? So you can find something like that in your life that, take something, if you have some leftover stuff in your parents' attic and there's something from your childhood, what can you take from there to customize it, right? There's so many different things that you can pull from. Do a little bit of treatment on it, and it becomes a very exclusive piece of merch that you could then auction off, or even just put it in your store for an exorbitant amount of money, and someone might buy it. So there's a couple of ways to choose how to do that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Talk about creative offer storytelling. That's just something that that I would encourage indies to think about, is you can tap into stuff like that. You can tap into that creative part of you, even, like you said, if it's something from your childhood that you find, laying in the attic or in the basement or something like that, that's a great place to start. Mm-hmm. And the more you can weave that into the narrative of who you are as an artist and why your fans would care about it, you've got a compelling offer right there. And putting it up in your store, some people, I've heard people say oh, I don't want to put something up in my store for X amount of dollars. Doesn't that seem weird? Well, you never know if somebody out there just really would love something like that, until you ask.
Just to be the one who has it, even if it's not utilitarian. I've actually done the same thing. I had a run of t-shirts that are from, that would be 12 years ago now, right when I started. And I only made like 25 of them because it's not like I had a huge fan base to sell them to, I was just starting. So I only made like 25 of them, and I had one that I had kept for me, and I wore it maybe once or twice, although it's kind of awkward wearing your own merch unless you're on tour and you're dirty and you need clean clothes. But other than that, you don't typically wear your own merch. So it only been worn like once or twice. And I decided to make it into a canvas art, which you can do for super cheap because you just buy the 4 pieces of wood and nail them together, and you have to cut them so that they fit on an angle. But if you look at the back of a piece of canvas art, any canvas art, whether you're in Bed Bath & Beyond or Target or whatever, it's just 4 pieces of wood put together in a square,
Yeah, it's not elegant.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just did that and then wrapped around, put the main piece of t-shirt on the front of the canvas art or in front of the square, and then wrapped it around tight and stapled it to the back. You could also use pin, like there are upholstery pins you could use as well if you don't have a staple gun, and pin those in the back to hold it real tight. Put it on your store, right? This is a t-shirt that'll never be made again. Now it's a piece of artwork. Maybe if you paint it, or, take a puff, one of those fabric puff pens and decorate it, but those are the kinds of things that are just one of a kind and special.
Yeah, for sure. That's super cool. I think auctions are such a cool way to tap into your fan base and kind of gamify it. Like I know competition feels weird, but like presented the right way, it's fun.
Yeah. Trust me, embrace it, right? It's not as egotistic as you may feel like it is. People like it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, you got anything else for us, Jack?
I think that pretty much covers a wide gambit of stuff,
Yeah.
Hopefully this gives everybody at least one area of inspiration that they could, focus in and attack on in the next couple months here.
Right. Go out there and really push yourself. Be as creative in your merchandise as you are in your music. And I think that you'll be able to unlock more revenue, especially if you utilize some of the more tech-ish strategies that we discussed in this episode. Next week, I'm going to be very vulnerable and bearing all because I have been running a funnel that would not have usually been an Indepreneur recommended funnel. And I know I'm so evil. But I'm going to be going into not just what that campaign was, but also the products and the offers. I'm going to talk about the ad sets and the pivoting and the ad sets that did not break even. And actually this campaign did not run even for 6 weeks. And then I made a huge pivot and I was able to start breaking even and then eventually profit. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to come back next week. But we're going to dig on in and I'm going to basically expose my entire ad strategy to you. So I hope that you'll come back next week. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Have a great week, Indies.
Peace out, Indies.
Can y'all really feel us? East Coast, feel us, West Coast.